name is Mas, and I'm a product leader with over 20 years of experience. I've led multiple teams of product managers and product owners. And I've owned product portfolios containing multiple products. I've worked in automotive, fintech, financial services, and CRM. In this video, I'll be talking to you about a feature go-to-market plan. Many of you are probably thinking that a go-to-market plan should be driven by the marketing department and is typically prepared for a new product launch. That is true. But based on my experience, it's always good to also have a mini go-to-market plan for your feature releases. You may think that it's an overkill and it's too much process at first, but once you do this a few times, you will realize that it's actually quite easy and it takes very little time, while you fully benefit from everything that a typical go-to-market plan provides. Let's dive right in. So what is a go-to-market plan for a feature? It's a plan to launch something of value to the right audience and position it as a solution to their market problems. In this video, we will be focusing on each one of these components, and we'll dive deeper to make sure you really understand the importance of each one and how to create your own go-to-market plan moving forward. First, let's get something out of the way. If your organization already has a product launch manager or a software delivery manager or product delivery manager, or sometimes even the product marketing manager may play this role, then in those cases, that person will most probably be driving and executing the go-to-market plan. If that's the case, your role is very different. And that means that your main focus should be to stay in sync with your product launch manager every step of the way. Either have one-on-ones every week or include the product launch manager in some key meetings. But not only you have to tell the PLM about your progress, but the PLM needs to communicate to you if the launch dates have changed. So have her include in the discovery process, communicate important dates, ensure she knows who the key stakeholders are. Also ensure that the PLM knows the feature itself. I've seen many cases when the final communication is explaining the feature incorrectly because multiple revisions by product marketing have ended up changing the actual meaning of the message. Release notes can be very valuable for the PLM as well. So include as much context, screenshots, etc. as possible. And remember to review the final copy before it's sent out, whether it's marketing material, internal one-pagers, etc. Your role is to make sure the information is accurate. So here are a few more tips on how to stay in sync with your product launch manager. Make sure you keep them in sync from discovery to launch. Communicate all milestones with your PLM. You also need to inform her of all the delays. If there are changes in priorities or any delays from a development perspective, they need to know about that. And make sure to help them articulating the value prop. Sometimes I've noticed that product launch managers are great project managers and they can easily handle timelines and deadlines, but they may struggle defining the value prop positioning. So now for the rest of the video, we'll assume that you are driving the go-to-market plan. Let's revisit the definition of a feature go-to-market. It's a plan to launch something of value to the right audience and position it as a solution. We will discuss each one of these components in more detail in the next few slides. So let's start with the plan. So how should you put a plan together? First, you have to have the right tools. You could pick a simple spreadsheet or use proper project management tools. It doesn't really matter. If you are picking a new tool, make sure you can have some sort of status, either check marks or statuses where you can mark them as done. The tools should also have dates, owners, and ideally, you can define milestones. You should also be able to share the plan with internal stakeholders, such as marketing, support, and sales. And there should be an easy way for multiple people to collaborate with each other. You can use Excel, you can use Google Sheets, Asana, Smartsheets, Microsoft Project, Trello, whatever tool may work. Just stay organized and make sure others can access the plan easily. Second, use templates so you can simplify your process. Start with pre-existing templates. I have some that I can share as well. The goal is not to spend too much on a feature go-to-market, so templates can help speed things up. Third, communicate the plan on a regular basis. Ensure stakeholders know about the plan, they know where to find the plan, and how to use the contents. A combination of meetings and emails or intranet postings could help. See what works for your organization. Pick the right means of communication that's most effective. Over-communicate at first if necessary until people get used to this new process. Finally, start small and build your plan over time. Think incremental improvements. Like many things in product, rinse and repeat. Even if this means that you start with just release notes by email, the next release you engage the learning and development team to create some SOPs or training docs, and then the next release you work with marketing and start creating customer communications. Every release you add a little bit more to it, and then you really build it over time and improve as you go. By the way, the communication doesn't stop just at the launch. Pre-launch, you're discussing the plan, reminding people that a release is coming. At launch, you're announcing the change. Post-launch, you need to also inform stakeholders how the launch was, anything we learned from, and you need to celebrate successes, even if they're small. Make sure you also communicate this information to the dev teams. Many times developers don't hear anything back post-release, and all features get released and get sucked into some black hole. It's our duty as product managers to inform them how their hard work actually helped real customers benefit. The second important component of the plan is audience. Before you can send any type of communication and discuss benefits and value, it's important to determine who the target audience is. Most probably, the feature that you're releasing solves a problem for a particular group of customers. Do you have buyers and sellers and this feature is only for buyers? Or do you have a B2B2C business and this feature only impacts the end consumer? In the case of a product go-to-market, you may be targeting larger segments, but in a feature release, you're often targeting smaller segments of customers. And remember that the audience could be internal or external. Perhaps it's an iOS-only feature, so it's important to just identify that and then to target only those customers as part of your go-to-market plan. So really focusing on the audience is very, very important. It's important that you identify that because then everything else kind of ties into the audience. Here's an example. Imagine you run a fictional t-shirt marketplace where merchants sell their t-shirts and consumers buy them. You recently launched a new feature to sort all t-shirt sizes in your application. So who's the right audience? In this case, it's the consumer who will benefit from this the most, right? But if you add another feature which allows the user to hide certain sizes, then it can benefit both the merchant and the consumer. Maybe the consumer is a medium and they want to hide all the extra large and large sizes. That way their search is a lot faster. Maybe the merchant can hide certain sizes from the consumers because they don't have the right inventory. So you can see how determining the audience first helps you define the value later. In a similar fashion, if you're adding a feature to choose a color or provide insights that help users know what colors are popular, these features can benefit both merchants and consumers, but in very different ways. So really focusing on understanding the right audience is key before we jump into discussing value. So now let's define the value proposition. Just as a reminder, this is not a value proposition for a product. This is just focused on incremental changes like features. My recommendation is to start with a simple template and be very explicit, like the one I've shown here. This is one template. There's tons of templates out there. If you're new to this, then start with this template and then rewrite this paragraph later so that it flows better and matches your brand language. The price part is optional and you can skip it if you want, especially if there's no price change. The problem part is also optional, but it might be good to explicitly write it at this stage and then later you can eliminate it as you rewrite this. So here's an example. We've released a feature that impacts only our West Coast buyers for some reason that helps them find the status of their account. You can pause the video and look at both of these definitions of value prop. In the first part, I actually explicitly wrote down everything that I wanted, and then the second part, I rewrote that in a way that flows better. So you can kind of follow this as you go along. If you use this method a few times, you will find that after a while, you'll find your own template. And as long as you can articulate the benefits and the right audience, then it should be sufficient. As mentioned before, the different features provide different value for different audiences. So here are some other examples. You may want to take a look at it. Your feature could be that you're providing insight to see which colors are popular. For a consumer, it could mean that it's better experience. Now they know the trends of what's happening in the market. They see that a red t-shirt is very popular, so they also want to be part of that trend, so they actually buy that red t-shirt. For a merchant, you can focus on better inventory management. So if they know that red t-shirts are popular, they can order more, they can save money, and things like that. So you see that the value proposition changes depending on who you're focusing on. And also, different features have different types of value that they're providing. So now let's focus on positioning. Positioning allows customers to know what your product's all about, why it's special compared to the competition or compared to what they have today, and why should they care? Positioning is a little bit hard, typically driven by marketing, and product management typically only helps define positioning. But I've noticed that product managers typically have a hard time defining the positioning of their product. I may create a separate video for that, so if you're interested in that, let me know. For now, you need to understand what positioning is and try to do your best to distinguish this new feature that you're just releasing compared to what customers do today. So they might be doing something completely different, like they're using some spreadsheet or some manual process, or they could be using the application of your competition. So the fact that you're positioning yourself better than the competition, that is key for the user, so that they understand that what you're providing them is better than what they do today with the competition product. Value proposition and positioning go hand in hand. By definition, the value you're bringing to market that is benefiting a customer type is your value proposition. The way to set yourself apart by positioning yourself compared to the alternative options is your positioning angle. Obviously, both of them are only possible to define if you know the original problem. I'm assuming you have clearly defined the problem as part of your discovery. Otherwise, why even build this feature, right? Since positioning is difficult, here are a few easy ways that can help you think about positioning. First, what do customers do today without your feature? And what would they do tomorrow with your feature? So how are you making their life better? You can position it that way. What does the competition do? Which, assuming that they're not doing a good job, because you probably know that, and you built your product to be better than the competition. So really kind of positioning yourself against the competition. Is this something completely new? Are you first in the market? In that case, you could position yourself as an innovator or a thought leader. And finally, are you simply catching up? Maybe everyone else had this, but you didn't, and now you're just getting there to make sure. So of course, you don't want to say that you're catching up, but you want to say that you're basically in sync with the market now. So now you have a plan, you have defined the value, the positioning, and you know who the target audience is. Now it's time to launch. You need to make sure you have a lot of material about the product itself. It could be screenshots, videos, or it could be a staging environment that people can go and actually play around with the feature and learn it. Whatever the case may be, make sure you have a way for someone internal to learn about this new change. You can always do demos, obviously. You need to also identify which key people in the organization you need to train so that they can train their own teams. Training here means learning to use this new feature and understand the benefits. You also need to pay special attention to sales teams. They may need product knowledge material, but they also may need sales enablement materials to help them sell the product. That's a little bit different from using the product versus selling the product. Make sure you review the communications. Even great product marketing teams can sometimes rework the message and change the original value proposition. So make sure you review for accuracy. Communicate this information to everybody using a timeline. It's very effective. It's always easy to start from the launch date and work backwards. Sometimes the timeline can show you that the launch cannot happen because the right pre-launch steps will not finish on time. Finally, communication with stakeholders should be a major focus. So who are your key stakeholders when it comes to a launch of a feature? The way to think about stakeholders is who needs to know, who needs to be trained, who needs to be warned, and who needs to take action. Because sometimes that warning is helpful because you're telling everyone, hey, FYI, this is coming. We need to be prepared for this. Your typical stakeholders are marketing, sales, customer service, operations, learning and development, professional services, developers, and of course, customers. You need to identify all the stakeholders. For the external ones, see if you're directly contacting the customer or there's another team that does that. Is it the sales team, account management team, or the marketing team that communicates information to customers? For internal stakeholders, you need to make sure that you train the trainers, as we said before, and you have all the product material accessible. Also, it's important to be very clear about actions that these stakeholders have to take. You are not doing all this work. You are just coordinating. Other departments should have action items and timelines and communicate that to all the stakeholders involved. For example, marketing will finish the communications by November 15th. Training will be done by November 18th. Customer support resets all the passwords for customers on the 19th. The product launch is on the 20th. And then customers would have to log in again, and then they'll see the new feature and the new password rule, whatever the case may be. This may not be the best example, but the point is that different stakeholders have different actions with different deadlines. And a launch can only be successful if everyone works together to make it happen. So to summarize, to have a good go-to-market plan, you need to have a plan using the right tools. You also need to clearly define who the right audience is, what type of value you're adding, and how are you positioning this change compared to what they do today. Finally, you need to execute this launch plan working closely with all the stakeholders. If you do this a few times and you have a template, you will realize that it's actually quite quick. It might seem like it's a bit of an overkill for a feature, but doing it a few times makes you realize how beneficial this plan is. Then here's a quick blurb about me. In case you're curious, no, I'm not an astronaut. AI took the liberty to draw me as such. So drop a comment to let me know if this was useful and what other topics you would like me to cover. Make sure to continue learning by reviewing other videos on this channel. I will try to link a few of them here for you.